Imagine this. You are accused of a crime that cannot be measured, weighed, or disproved. A whisper is enough. A neighbor's strange dream, a child's trembling words, or the sudden death of a cow might place your name on the list. From that moment on, your life is no longer your own. You are no longer mother, farmer, servant, or friend. You are a suspect of witchcraft. Welcome to FactsHubHQ, where we step quietly into the past. In this episode, we will explore what it was really like to be caught in the web of witch trials. We will begin in the prisons of Salem, where the accused awaited judgment in airless cells. Then, we'll turn to the voice of Tituba, the enslaved woman whose testimony helped ignite the frenzy. We will pause to examine the strange relics left behind in English homes, witch bottles buried under hearthstones and thresholds. And finally, we will contrast the lives of the accused with those of the judges and ministers who dined and preached while others languished in chains. This is not a story of magic, but of fear, suspicion, and survival. Let us begin with the simple question. What did it feel like to wake up as a prisoner, marked as a witch? You wake to the sound of dripping water. The floor beneath you is packed dirt, still damp from the last rain that seeped through the wooden beams. Your bedding is a bundle of straw, flattened and crawling with lice. The air is close, heavy with the smell of unwashed bodies, smoke from distant fires, and the faint temps of mold. This is the jail at Salem Village in 1692. Or it could be a dungeon in Germany, or a municipal prison in England. Across early modern Europe and colonial New England, accused witches often waited in places like this. Small windowless rooms where sunlight rarely reached. Your wrists and ankles may be bound with iron shackles. In some places, chains were fixed to the walls, forcing prisoners to sit in near darkness day after day. Food, when it came, was coarse bread and water, sometimes a little porridge, sometimes nothing at all. In Salem, prisoners often depended on relatives to bring food or pay for their keep. Even in jail, survival had a price. The hours stretch endlessly. There is no work to pass the time. No certainty about the future. Some cells hold men and women together, while others separate them, leaving you to listen through the walls. Muffled prayers, quiet weeping, the rattle of chains. In European trials, torture was sometimes used. The rack, the strapado thumbscrews, instruments designed to wring confessions from those who resisted. In Salem, physical torture was rarer, though laying heavy stones on the chest was used at least once. Still, the pressure here was more often psychological, the endless waiting. The knowledge that any word could be turned against you. At night, the cell grows colder. Rats scurry in the corners, scratching at scraps. You try to sleep, but dreams blur with fear. Will tomorrow bring release? Or questioning, or worse? This was the daily rhythm of those accused, not the fiery drama of witch stories, but the slow erosion of body and spirit inside small, silent rooms. But what of those whose words could seal a fate? Tituba, an enslaved woman in Salem, found herself at the center of the storm. Her testimony, likely coerced, spoke of supernatural meetings and dark rituals. Was she a victim, a strategist, or both? In the crucible of accusation, survival often meant implicating others. Across the Atlantic, in the homes of England, people sought protection through other means. Witch bottles filled with pins, nails, and sometimes urine were buried beneath thresholds. These silent sentinels were thought to trap evil, to turn curses back upon their casters. What does it tell us about a society when such fears burrow into the very foundations of homes? While the accused languished, life continued for others. Judges retired to comfortable chambers, poring over texts of demonology. Ministers preached fiery sermons, warning of the devil's reach. In taverns and town squares, gossip flowed like wine, each whisper adding fuel to the fire of suspicion. The contrast is stark. Clean linen and full plates set against the squalor of cells. The certainty of faith against the desperation of the accused. Yet all were caught in the same web of belief and fear, a tapestry woven from threads of superstition, power, and the unknown. As we close this chapter of history, remember, the witch trials were not about magic, but about the very human fears that can turn neighbor against neighbor, reason into madness. In exploring these dark corners of our past, we illuminate the shadows that still linger in our present. The next time you hear a whisper of accusation or feel the temptation to point a finger, pause. Remember the cold floors of Salem's jail, the weight of chains, the power of a word to destroy a life? In that moment of reflection lies our best defense against repeating the errors of history. Among the many voices recorded in the Salem witch trials, one stands out with unusual clarity: the voice of Tituba. Her testimony, preserved in court records, offers a chilling glimpse into the terror and confusion that gripped Salem Village in 1692. Tituba was an enslaved woman of indigenous and African descent, living in the household of Reverend Samuel Sewall. In the winter of that fateful year, strange events began to unfold. Paris's daughter Betty and his niece Abigail started to exhibit bizarre symptoms, convulsing, screaming, and falling into inexplicable fits. A local doctor, baffled by their condition, suggested an invisible cause. Perhaps, he whispered, it was witchcraft. As fear spread through the community, whispers quickly grew into accusations. The pressure of questioning soon turned toward Tituba, and she became one of the first to be formally examined. The court records preserve fragments of her voice, offering a haunting window into the interrogation process. Under intense questioning, Tituba's testimony unfolded like a nightmare. She admitted to seeing the devil, to signing his book in blood. She spoke of encountering strange creatures, a black dog with glowing eyes, a red cat that spoke in human tongues, a yellow bird that whispered dark secrets. Her words painted a vivid picture of supernatural encounters, describing flights through the air on broomsticks and clandestine gatherings with other witches under the cover of night. But perhaps most damning of all, Tituba named names. She pointed fingers at others in the community, setting in motion a chain of accusations that would engulf Salem for months to come. It's difficult to discern how much of Tituba's testimony was her own invention, and how much was drawn out by force or coercion. Later accounts suggest she was beaten by Reverend Paris before she confessed, her body bruised and her spirit broken. What we can see in the transcripts is a woman under immense pressure, surrounded by stern-faced judges, disapproving ministers, and hostile neighbors. Every word she uttered shaped not only her own fate, but the fates of countless others in Salem. What makes Tituba's story even more striking is the profound effect it had on the witch hunt. Until her confession, suspicion hung in the air like a fog, formless and intangible. But her words gave that fear structure and substance. If one witch admitted to a pact with the devil, then surely there must be others lurking in the shadows. Her testimony fueled a frenzy of accusations, setting the stage for months of trials, imprisonments, and ultimately executions. And yet, in a twist of fate that seems almost cruel, Tituba herself was never executed. After more than a year languishing in jail, she was released, only to be sold to pay her jail fees. From that point, she disappears from the historical record. We do not know where she went, or how her life ultimately ended. Her fate, like so many accused of witchcraft, dissolved into silence. Through Tituba's testimony, we glimpse the extraordinary pressure faced by those accused of witchcraft in Salem. Confession offered a slim chance at survival, but it came at a terrible cost. To confess meant implicating others, feeding the fear and paranoia that kept the trials alive. It meant betraying friends, neighbors, and even family members to save one's own skin. Her voice serves as a stark reminder in the charged atmosphere of Salem. Truth was less important than belief. Survival often depended not on innocence or guilt, but on what you were willing or forced to say. The power of words became a matter of life and death, with every confession spinning a web that ensnared more victims. Tituba's story illustrates the cruel paradox at the heart of the witch trials. Those who maintained their innocence faced certain death, while those who confessed and implicated others might be spared. But at the cost of their conscience and the lives of others, it was a system designed to perpetuate itself, feeding on fear, suspicion, and the basic human instinct for self-preservation. As we look back on this dark chapter of history, Tituba's voice echoes through the centuries. It reminds us of the dangers of mass hysteria, the power of fear to override reason, and the terrible choices forced upon the powerless in times of crisis. Her testimony stands as a haunting testament to the human capacity for both cruelty and survival, a stark warning of what can happen when justice is eclipsed by paranoia. As the witch trials swept through Europe and colonial America, courtrooms echoed with accusations and prisons held the accused. Yet, beyond the public spectacle, ordinary people turned to quieter, stranger methods to defend themselves against what they believed were unseen forces. One of the most striking examples of this hidden struggle is the witch bottle. Archaeologists have uncovered these curious objects across England and parts of colonial America, shedding light on a forgotten aspect of the witch hunt era. At first glance, they appear to be simple containers, ceramic jugs or glass bottles, often buried beneath hearths, thresholds, or in gardens. But their contents tell a different story, one of fear, superstition, and desperate attempts at protection. Inside these unassuming vessels, researchers have found a bizarre assortment of items: bent nails, pins, needles, hair, fingernail clippings, and sometimes even urine. To modern eyes, the mixture may seem odd, even unsettling, but each element held deep significance for those who created them. The urine, for instance, was thought to create a powerful connection between the bottle and the afflicted person. Meanwhile, the sharp objects served a more sinister purpose: to trap or injure the spirit of the witch believed to be causing harm. The earliest records of witch bottles date back to the 16th and 17th centuries, coinciding precisely with the peak of witchcraft fears. Written accounts from the time describe how people, gripped by anxiety, would consult cunning folk, local healers, or wise men and women who were believed to possess special knowledge. These practitioners would advise on the creation of these protective charms, guiding fearful individuals through the process of assembling and activating the bottles. Once prepared, the witch bottle was not simply left out in the open. Instead, it was carefully hidden away, often in locations considered spiritually significant or vulnerable to supernatural attack. Some accounts even describe bottles being heated until they burst, a dramatic finale believed to signal that the spell had been broken and the threat neutralized. The discovery of these artifacts has provided archaeologists with tangible evidence of the widespread nature of these beliefs. One particularly well-preserved example was unearthed near a fireplace in Essex, England, its contents including over 40 iron nails, a testament to the intensity of the creator's fears. Another bottle discovered during roadwork in London contained a tangled mass of hair and pins, each item carefully placed with protective intent. These bottles serve as poignant reminders that the witch trials were not solely a matter of courtroom drama and public executions. Witchcraft beliefs permeated daily life, woven into the very fabric of ordinary households. People genuinely feared curses and malevolent magic, seeking protection in ways that made sense within their worldview. Through ritual objects, symbols, and folk practices passed down through generations. The existence of witch bottles highlights the complex nature of accusations during this tumultuous period. For those under suspicion, the discovery of such objects could be damning evidence, proof of engagement with supernatural forces, yet for their creators, these bottles represented a desperate bid for safety, a tangible way to combat intangible threats. In both cases, we glimpse a world where the line between superstition and survival was perilously thin. The unseen shaped daily choices, influencing everything from household rituals to community dynamics. The witch bottle stands as a silent witness to the deep-seated anxieties that gripped communities during the witch trial era. As we examine these artifacts, we're reminded of the human cost of the witch hunts. Beyond the dramatic trials and executions, countless individuals lived in fear, their lives shaped by the constant threat of accusation or supernatural attack. The witch bottle encapsulates this fear, a physical manifestation of the psychological toll exacted by widespread paranoia and suspicion. Today, these bottles offer us a unique window into the mindset of those who lived through one of history's darkest chapters. They speak to the ingenuity and resilience of ordinary people facing extraordinary circumstances, as well as the power of belief to shape reality. In studying them, we gain not only archaeological insights, but a deeper understanding of the human experience during a time when the boundaries between the natural and supernatural worlds seemed frighteningly permeable. As we delve into the dark world of witch trials, we find a stark contrast between the lives of the accused and those who held power over their fates, while innocent men and women languished in cramped cells, trembling before their accusers. Figures like Judge Samuel Sewall and Reverend Cotton Mather lived lives of comfort and privilege. Sewall's personal diary offers us a window into this world of stark inequality. His entries not only recorded the trials and confessions that would seal the fates of the accused, but also detailed the sumptuous meals he enjoyed and the intellectual discourse he engaged in, while prisoners subsisted on meager rations. Sewall's table groaned under the weight of roasted meats, freshly baked bread, and fine imported wines, luxuries that those languishing in jail cells could scarcely imagine. After long days presiding over life-and-death decisions in the courtroom, Sewall and his fellow judges would retire to warm homes, where they dined well and engaged in scholarly discussions of scripture. The contrast between their comfortable evenings and the cold, dark nights endured by the accused is striking. Ministers, too, wielded considerable influence during this tumultuous time. From their pulpits, they shaped public opinion with fiery sermons that warned of the ever-present dangers of sin and the devil's influence. Yet while they spoke of hellfire and damnation, their own lives were marked by study, comfort, and the respect of their communities. As accused witches huddled in dank cells, fearing for their lives, ministers like Increase Mather spent their evenings in well-appointed studies, surrounded by books and bathed in warm candlelight. They carefully crafted the sermons that would further stoke the flames of hysteria. Their families slept peacefully nearby, untouched by the terror that gripped so many of their neighbors. This disparity in living conditions speaks volumes about the true nature of the witch trials. In the same village, some residents endured hunger, cold, and the constant threat of execution, while others debated fine points of theology over plates piled high with food. The trials were not merely about rooting out perceived evil. They were a stark demonstration of power, of who held the authority to accuse, to judge, and ultimately to determine life or death. For those unfortunate enough to fall under suspicion, there was no safe haven. A careless word, a petty grudge, or simply being in the wrong place at the wrong time could lead to accusations that would destroy lives. Meanwhile, those in positions of power found that the trials only reinforced their status, even as they claimed to be defending their community from unseen threats. As we step back from the specific horrors of Salem and consider the wider world of witch trials, a disturbing pattern emerges. We have walked through the squalid jails where the accused awaited their fate. We have heard the anguished testimony of Tituba, whose words under duress condemned others to share her fate. We have unearthed the witch bottles hidden beneath hearths, silent testaments to the deep-seated fears that plagued even those who escaped accusation. What emerges from this exploration is not a tale of magic and sorcery, but a stark reminder of how quickly fear and suspicion can tear apart the fabric of a community. Ordinary lives were appended by whispered accusations. Words spoken under extreme pressure could condemn a lifelong neighbor to the gallows. Objects concealed in secret places spoke of anxieties too deep to voice aloud. And at the highest levels of society, those who wielded power dined in comfort and security, while others faced an uncertain and often brutal fate. The accused witch of the 17th century found herself trapped in a nightmare from which there was often no escape. While judges and ministers slept soundly in their beds, today, formal accusations of witchcraft may seem like distant echoes of a less enlightened past. Yet the story of the witch trials serves as a potent reminder of how fragile the bonds of community can be when fear takes hold. It shows us how quickly suspicion can divide neighbors and how easily the powerful can exploit the fears of the many. Thank you for joining us on this quiet journey into a dark chapter of history. If you found meaning in this exploration of past injustices, we invite you to stay with us at FactsHubHQ, subscribe to our channel, and together we'll continue to uncover the forgotten truths of history, archaeology, and science. Stories that, though centuries old, still have the power to speak to us today, reminding us of the importance of compassion, justice, and the courage to stand against fear-driven persecution.